out of the classroom and into the world. That's the mission of our school. My name is Les Harrison. I am language arts teacher, special education teacher, and an advisor at Jane Goodall Environmental Sciences Academy, JGESA, or JGESA. But who I am doesn't really matter. I'm one of 16 staff members, and any one of them could be here in my place. We are staff-led. We don't have one single director, so we are the leaders of the school. JGESA is a small, rural, public charter school in central Minnesota. We can turn no students away and do not. We have 50% special education population, 115 students currently with a max charter of 150. We serve grades 6 through 12. And our innovation is really, it's us. And the way for me to best explain this is with 4 ideas: that outward, autonomy, connections, and skills. The outward piece comes in several different directions. First of all, we are outside as much as possible, and we just approach things differently. So our home over the last 8 years is on a 300-acre wooded campus. We have trails, there's a lake, ponds, and our students learn within cabins. The hallways are outdoors. Nice when it's 75 degrees, not so much when it's 20 below. But that is the experience. We try to provide as many opportunities as possible for students to get outside. That can be from our daily advisory experience when we go on walks to activity time, which is essentially recess through 12th grade. Kids need to be out. And so they have those opportunities. They also create projects of their own because we are a project-based learning school. We provide opportunities for them through expeditionary and experiential learning to get outside and to explore the world. This approach extends in many different ways. We also go to, we have Trout in the Classroom, where kids engage with experiences where they get to learn more about natural environments and the fish in our area. We have Seahorse Key, which is an opportunity for students to go to Florida and learn marine biology, and Tall Ships, where students they get to go to Lake Superior and learn how to sail and are fully engaged in the process of a 54-foot schooner. I was there last week with a great bunch of kids, and without this great opportunity, I would be with them now. So they're currently there and engaged with 2 other amazing advisors. Another aspect where we are outward is breaking barriers in our connections and relations with students. So they know us by first name basis. I'm simply Les. And clothing. So this is about making connections and with the students, and so they are comfortable with us. So whether I'm wearing my formal flannel or my dress hoodie, it's to make that connection. But the other piece of it is we are outside a lot. We get wet and muddy and dirty, and through that process, we dress in layers because that's responsible. So, and then the other piece where we are outward is that we are student-driven. So we are competency-based. We do not have grades. Ultimately, we look at the state standards. We take the targets that will lead towards graduation, but it's what have you learned, and that's the ultimate basis for it. And we do all this because we believe in the autonomy of our kids. And so we think that students need to learn, but they don't necessarily need to be taught. And that then uses that project-based model where they engage in passion projects, things that they have created and work with us on. We are there to guide, to advise them, to show them maybe different ways of looking at the targets and the state standards to help them understand that better. But it is their curiosity, their questions that lead that process. And So we go through that process with them, but ultimately we assess, we reflect upon that. And that tends to be a very interdisciplinary model, or what we look at as a buffet approach. So what they love with what's required. So yes, they're eating the chocolate cake a lot, but they still are getting the Brussels sprouts. And that approach can look like a student who has a passion for art might then create a 18th century history project that really uses their art as the centerpiece, but focuses on the culture and the ideas of that time period, but might tie in the science of that era and the geography of that specific area and the literature that really informs that. So that's a huge piece of that autonomy. That then extends to certainly us as staff. Our governance, again, is self-led. So what that means is we are on various committees. We work together, we research, we decide, and then we come together with proposals for our full group, which is what we call our team-powered practice. And then the group ultimately votes on and approves, and things go forward, or it goes back to committee until it's either ready or it dies. So that's a huge piece of who we are, and it allows us to be nimble and make decisions that we can change quickly. So when we came back from COVID and we saw kids struggling, we then were able to create seminars that really focused on their language arts and math and project-based learning, with the idea that we're trying to provide greater independence for them, or regain that independence from what they lost at home. And ultimately, I think this it really has us invested. So we take ownership over all of this. And in order to do that, we have to be connected. We make these connections with our students. And that's really at the heart of who we are. Yes, we're project-based learning center, but more than that, we are relationship-based, and that's where everything starts. So our model looks a little different. Students will come to us on a daily basis. They'll walk into a cabin where they're one of 14 to 17 students in an advisory, and there are 2 advisories in the cabin, so they have 2 amazing, adults leading them. And so you have 35 kids or fewer with at least those 2 adults plus paraprofessional help supporting that. So I ultimately can work with a kid from 6th grade to 12th grade, and I get to know them deeply, intimately. I get to know their joys, passions, struggles, and just to know them as human beings. So another piece of this is that we do use restorative justice. And ultimately, we get to avoid a lot of the disciplinarian and authoritarian pieces because we are focusing on that relationship. And by building that relationship with your students and that advisor connection, then a lot of the problems are just avoided from the beginning because you don't want to harm someone who you have a connection with or that you're in a relationship with. So we avoid that a lot of times, but then when we do come to that, we know those kids intimately. And so we can focus on the specific problem, the specific student, get to what's really behind that issue. And it's often messy, it takes longer, but then we're advocating for the student, we're finding ways to resolve and restore that. And so it leads to maintaining that relationship rather than just sending kids away as problem, or even if that discipline's been made, but it's about restoring because we are a small community and that's really necessary. So I think of Channing, who came to us and really struggled elsewhere. And she talked to me last week on this tall ship and said that she has found her love for learning again. And I can't ask for anything more than that, really, that a student is comfortable and is back to that. To Kristen, who says that in every other school, they tend to make you learn in a specific way. And she said she's always been pushed to find her own unique way of learning, and that helps her thrive. And finally, I think of John, who graduated a year ago. And in his previous school, John was made a janitor because they didn't know what to do with him. So he came to us, he struggled at first, and then he started to see his own potential, and we saw his gifts, that he was a creative writer, that he's just insightful, and ultimately just an amazing human being, which is what we want more than anything else. And so in January of 2020, John needed a new project, and he comes to me and he says, I have an idea for a project. I've been following this COVID-19 thing, and I think it's going to be important. I said, John, that's a fantastic project. I wouldn't worry about it. It's probably not going to impact many people. I failed on that one. John made sure to tell that story at graduation, as well as thanking us all for providing that opportunity. And finally, that connection looks like Maddie and Dylan, who graduated from our schools and came back to us as support staff this past year, and were an integral part of our team. Ultimately, they came back because our model works, and they loved it. And we do all this because we see, again, the whole person. And so we're helping them develop those skills. And we unapologetically use social emotional learning. It is not a buzzword, it's foundation of who we are. So we have 2 counselors on our small staff. We have outside mental health help, as well as other organizations that are supporting us throughout. Then we also use a skills rubric that really looks at all of these tools that we think are necessary to thrive within our school, but also just outside of that. So that can be grit, creative thinking, problem solving, and for us, environmental education. And they're not just buzzwords, because it's woven into all of our language on a daily basis, as well as within our projects, so that we can track and progress over time. Ultimately, we are a very different school holistically. We know that our model works because we find the right people and find the right fit for them and for our students. It takes a different breed to work with us. So this recognition from Building Hope really highlights who we are, and as just a great honor, ultimately. We will use this award to allow us to dig more into our Out of the Classroom Fridays, where we have students off campus working on passion projects, expeditionary learning with us, or anything that we've pre-approved for that, as well as our expeditionary and experiential learning, and just any way that we can help students learn in outside contexts. Ultimately, we want to see passionate people who promote learning as a natural process that sometimes just needs to be nourished and guided. Does not have to happen in a building, that it can happen anywhere, out of the classroom, into the world.